We're here today at MBA's Empowering You Summit, where I just attended an incredible session, Grace Under Fire, turning workplace conflict into opportunity. It was led by Nicole Provonchee, executive coach from Bright Blue Consulting. Hi, Nicole. Thanks for being here.
Hi.
We're going to share some of the information with our audience, and I have a few questions to ask. So you work with women leaders all over the country. What are the most common items they want to work through when working with an executive coach?
Well, it probably won't surprise you that conflict is one of the most common things that women come to me to talk about. And a lot of times it's paired with something like imposter syndrome, or maybe they're new to a role and they just want to make sure they're doing a really good job. But a lot of times what stands between them and greater success is figuring out how to have appropriate conflict in the workplace. Because a lot of us are told when we're younger that maybe you avoid conflict, or every conflict is a competition. And the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. And so a lot of times what I'm working with women on is how to pick your battles, which ones to pick, how to reframe it so that it makes sense in a way that leverages what women do best, which is community, building community, and then how to approach the conflict so that's mutually beneficial to both the person you're talking with and yourself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you talk about reframing. You refer to that a couple of times. Can you give us some examples and give us a little bit more detail on what you mean by reframing?
So if you work with a coach, one of the first things we're going to talk about is reframing. And reframing is really about, think about you take a frame and you just put it around a different picture, right? We want to look at it through a different lens. And so when I think about reframing and conflict, a lot of times we get in our own head and we're telling ourselves a story and we have a narrative and you have a bad interaction with an individual and it just fuels that story. So what we try to do is pull ourselves out of the story and reframe it as, you know what, this is just a problem I need to solve, or this is a problem we need to solve. And so what we try to do is figure out how can we work together to solve a problem, not necessarily focus on I don't like you and you don't like me. Right? And that pulls us out of the narrative. And a lot of times that's where productive conflict comes from. It's pulling out of the story and just going towards the problem you're trying to solve. That's the reframe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that women are uniquely qualified to handle workplace conflict. What do you mean by that statement?
So women are conditioned very early, the research says, to be communal. We're conditioned to try and take care of the community of the whole. And so when you think about conflict, if you think about the lens of conflict of trying to get to, it's a natural thing that happens, and we're trying to get to a solution where we can both have agreement, we can both come to some kind of result. The goal there is to leverage the power of community. Women are uniquely qualified, because we look at it through a community lens, to create durable, long-lasting relationships and durable, long-lasting outcomes from conflict. In fact, when women are at the table of peace negotiations, it is 35% more likely that the peace negotiation will still be in place after 15 years when women are at the table, because of that community lens that we bring.
Wow, 15 years. That's a staggering statistic. The title of your talk is Grace Under Fire. In your session, you mentioned by understanding your personal triggers and threats, it allows you to be more graceful in approaching the conflict and extend more grace to others when in conflict. What do you mean by triggers and threats?
So for most of us, conflict is a triggering experience, right? It triggers the stress response that we have, that natural stress response to run away from the tiger, right? The cortisol, the adrenaline. And what we're trying to do by understanding our triggers is if we can bring knowledge to the fact that there are certain things that are uniquely triggering to us, right? So you might be threatened by someone who's threatening your livelihood, or maybe your control or your stability, but they're unique to you. So what I try to talk about in my workshop is to say, let's figure out what is unique to yourself. And once you know those triggers, what is threatening to you, you can start to look at them and go, they shouldn't hold this much power. There really isn't a tiger behind the bush that's trying to get me. That's my caveman brain. So what I need to think about is, oh, I recognize this is an old friend, right? This old friend of stability is coming in. I don't like it when someone tries to take control. I don't feel like I'm in control. And what I can do by understanding that I have now been triggered, I can kind of take a pause and approach it with more grace and just say, oh, that's an old friend. right? That's that stability, that control thing. I know what that is. I don't want that to control me. I want to take a breath, refocus on the problem I'm trying to solve. The other nice thing is when you understand that you have triggers, you understand that other people have triggers. And so you can start to extend grace. So if I come at you with something and you bite, I can be like, oh, I think I triggered. You're still a great person, and I'm still going to try and work on this conflict with you. But I've triggered you in some way, and I can give you some space, right? Yeah. And so you can give yourself grace, but then you can also give the person you're working with grace.
That's fantastic advice for professional advice and personal advice. So we really appreciate your presentation today, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.